Okay, what's going on, guys? So today we're going to look at question 51. It's for the SAT number 17, April 2019 QAS test. So this question here says the authors of both passages characterize the impact hypothesis as something. So we're looking for something that both the authors agree with, and this is a paired passage here. Unfortunately, with this, I'm not able to put the whole, to put both passages up, which would be a little more helpful. And then there's also, I'll put up some videos so you can kind of see the way I break them down. The thing is that when you're comparing passages on the paired passages, you really have to have you have to have a decent comprehension of the argument of both passages. So this is not really a question that you can do by finding specific text. You have to do a kind of a mixture of understanding sort of what the arguments are, memorizing some of the details in it, and then also being able to scan and search for details. So you got to kind of be able to do all three at the same time. So basically, let's start by going just with the general argument and maybe some things that we should or could remember from this passage. So this is saying that they characterize the impact hypothesis as whatever. So the author of passage 1 is in favor of the impact hypothesis. That's sort of the position they advocate. And the author of passage 2 pretty much disagrees. They think that the impact hypothesis is not correct, and they give their reasons why. So that is a little bit that will help us to sort of understand what's going on. The other thing that I think is pretty obvious, or not obvious, but is a point that we should probably remember and hopefully can remember, is that in passage 2, there's this kind of characterization of the impact hypothesis as being persuasive, or not persuasive, being compelling because it's how simple it is, right? It's very dramatic to think that an asteroid came and caused this big global change as opposed to little minute discussions or explanations. So there's an explanation that it's like kind of Hollywood to think that the impact hypothesis is there. So that's one point that author passage 2 makes. So let's just kind of go through the answer choices, see if we can start to sort of weigh some, and then we can go back and find specific evidence. So A says that the authors of both passages say that the impact hypothesis is unsupported by reliable evidence. And this, I think, we should just eliminate right off the bat, because we know that passage 1 advocates for the impact hypothesis. So they're not going to think that it's unsupported by reliable evidence. So I don't think A is correct. B says it's interesting but difficult to conclusively evaluate. So this is all possible. It's a probable one, but I would actually feel comfortable eliminating it or discounting against it pretty strongly right off the bat. The reason why is that the author of passage 2, not only do they think that the impact hypothesis is incorrect, but they also have sort of a negative attitude towards it. They think it's a little sensational. They think that it's definitely not correct. So this right here, which is like, it's interesting, but we can't say for sure, is not really the attitude or the spirit of passage 2 towards the impact hypothesis. It's a little more directly negative. So I would feel comfortable getting rid of it or discounting against it. C says more appealing to the public than to specialists. And that is something that, remember, we talked about in passage 2, where they talk about how it's more appealing. It has sort of a Hollywood appeal to it. The issue is that passage 1 doesn't say that. Passage 2 is the only one that mentions that, and we need something that both authors agree with. Then D says controversial in the scientific community. And this is something that when I did that, I kind of vaguely remembered that they mentioned that it was controversial. But just going through memory and my understanding of the passage, this is the only one I'm left with. So what I'm going to do is go back and I'm going to scan for text in either passage that would support this claim. And again, I wasn't able to produce everything here, but if you go back in passage 1, you'll find this right here, which basically explains that not all will be convinced. There are several leading other hypotheses, etc. So basically, it's controversial because it's not established, right? There's other leading hypotheses that explain this. So it's not conclusive. And then in this one here, it says that these claims were sharply contested. This is in passage 2. So these claims about the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis were sharply contested by other specialists. So both of those tell us that it's controversial in the scientific community. So we can choose answer choice D as our correct answer for